Ready! This week on Chat and Shit, we've got a surprise bonus episode. The biggest surprise is that Alana's not here. I've actually ditched her. And we're going to take a long, hard look at what alcohol really does to our gut beyond the hangovers and dodgy kebab. Joining me is Spencer Matthews. You just need to get your blonde wig and then you could look like Alana, who moderates his drinking now after a period of rethinking your relationship with the bev. And I had to get Jordan, aka Mr. Gut Health, back because there's nothing he doesn't know about go-to evidence-based science. I'm constantly WhatsApping questions about the gut and the gut microbiome. So we want to know what impact alcohol has on our microbiome. Spoiler, it's not just about the next day bloat, is it? It's got quite a big one. Okay, so Spencer, do you want to chat a little bit about your personal experience and why you... I don't know why I whispered that in there.
It's actually a podcast, so you have to speak up. Yeah.
Also, it feels like it's like a therapy couch, but like the wrong way around. It's just like there's like an extra person in therapy. But yeah, you decided to give up booze for a bit, didn't you?
I did, yeah. Well, I used to drink to excess, in a very problematic way. What started as fun, drinking on a daily basis at work. Actually, I was a city broker, and before that, I worked, in the city for a number of years prior to becoming a broker. And it was, you drink every single day. Pretty much to excess on a daily basis. And when you're young, 17, 18, 19, 20, it feels like fun and it doesn't really impact you in the way that it might at a later stage in your life. And also, it would have been uncool at the time to have considered your health in that way because it just wasn't really a kind of prominent thought to prioritize your health. Drinking and working just went hand in hand together. And that was the life that I lived. And then when I left that, I worked in nightclubs for a period and started a business that filled nightclubs full of people. And so I was out 6 nights a week, just drinking and, and not sleeping properly. And I was very unhealthy, actually, even though at that time it felt normal, fine. It felt as though that was kind of the life that everyone around me was living as well. So it was just normalized. So I went teetotal for a while. It started to become a bit sadder as time went on, as I got a bit older.
Yeah.
And people were kind of less available to drink, and you kind of felt that you were doing it more with very small groups of people and sometimes alone and sometimes early in the day, and kind of lying to your loved ones about it and just feeling that that potential that you might have in you is kind of being crushed by this bad habit that actually I'd lost control of a little bit. I'd walk past the liquor cabinet in my house at 10 a.m. and I might even sneak a shot of something or whatever, and then just not tell people about it. And then you start to feel, where have I ended up? So I went completely teetotal for a period, couple of years, 2-3 years. Sorry to be vague with that. I just it wasn't.
Didn't have it on an app like 361 days.
I wasn't really counting days. I just knew that I had to completely take a big break from it, change my relationship with it, and I loved it. Like my whole life changed, transformed dramatically, really quickly. And obviously, I was coming from a place of abusing alcohol, not just moderate drinking. So obviously the change was very noticeable to me, to those around me, to my health, and I never really looked back. I have drank since then, but my relationship with it is very different. I obviously have a lot of responsibility now. I'm a founder. I run 2 businesses. I have 3 children, 2 dogs.
You can't be hungover with the kids. That's the biggest deterrent.
My life has just changed a lot as well. Back when you used to be a bit of a solo night owl.
Whirlwind.
Yeah, you can kind of, you can prioritize things a little differently. Whereas now, that there is a level of dependency from other, my kids and other people on me. So it's, you kind of feel guiltier, I suppose, if you do abuse yourself, because you're supposed to be the head of the family.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think that we don't consider, especially I think in general, just in our 20s, we're just herring through life and we don't necessarily consider our health. But I also think we all sort of know, George, that alcohol probably isn't the best for our bodies because the way that we feel the next day is shite. But what does alcohol actually do to our gut? Like in the short term, what happens?
So firstly, let's talk about how we digest alcohol, because it's pretty interesting. There's very few substances that our stomach can directly absorb. Alcohol is one of them, in addition to water and some medications like aspirin. But that also means you shouldn't drink on an empty stomach. That's one of the
Really?
worst things you can do.
You used to use that as a tactic. I used to use that as a tactic when I was younger, like
What, to
not
get
eating
pissed
and
more
drinking.
quickly?
Yeah,
Right, okay.
That,
I was working class Scotland, guys, so let's,
well, that's it.
straight onto the WD. What's the W? What was that?
Is that because it's water and fat soluble?
Potentially, but it's some, yeah.
Listen, guys, I said I wouldn't bring any science to the table, but
Here he goes.
I'll bring a little bit. Okay.
But about 20% of the alcohol that we drink is absorbed directly through the stomach, and then the rest of it is absorbed through your small intestine, and then it gets transported to your liver, where it's metabolized. So your liver has the highest concentration of an enzyme called alcohol dehydrogenase, so ADH. That breaks alcohol down into acetaldehyde, which is toxic.
Okay.
So then our body has to produce another enzyme called ALDH to get rid of that toxic acetaldehyde.
Okay.
And turn that into acetate. But my fellow gut health connoisseur might recognise acetate as a short chain fatty acid.
Oh, we like them.
Yeah,
They're good.
So our gut bacteria produce them and they're beneficial to gut health. Now, I'm not saying alcohol is, and actually...
this podcast is about to get flipped on its head, guys. So we...
no, because you obviously you have to compensate for the toxin, right?
Excess
so
bit, yeah.
It's the toxin, the acetaldehyde, that causes a lot of the hangover symptoms like nausea, gastrointestinal irritation. It also causes the alcohol flush. You ever seen that, where people's like face and chest goes red?
Especially after a glass of red.
Yeah, well, that's actually more common in people from Asia, so they have a genetic predisposition to it. So they don't produce enough of the enzyme ALDH to break down that acetaldehyde, but they're also at higher risk of some cancers, some digestive cancers because of this as well, potentially because they struggle to break down that toxin. Yeah.
Because I think the next day, we've always known that we maybe have gut issues after we've had alcohol. But the short term, there is long term effects to like our gut microbiome as well of excessive drinking, which then can affect our health. I'm making big leaps. You're gonna have to,
So it's interesting because there's not a lot of evidence in what alcohol does to your gut in healthy or moderate drinkers. So most of the research is in either animals or in people who use alcohol heavily.
Do they get little mice drunk?
Did you?
Yeah,
A lot.
rats
A
and
little
that.
house party.
Yeah. Well, they give cocaine to rats quite a lot, don't they? Just
Yeah,
to,
just-
They give
yeah.
it, yeah,
God,
everything.
they must
yeah,
go absolutely nuts.
everything.
Look at Briley. Cocaine's a drug, Briley. You can mention it. It's no big deal.
But most of the gut microbiome research is in heavy drinkers or those with alcohol-related liver disease.
Okay.
And we can see in them they have a really disrupted gut microbiome, or what we call dysbiosis. So they tend to have higher levels of proteobacteria. These are bacteria that tend to be pathogens, so not
Bad
good for
guys.
us. Bad guys, yeah. And then they have lower levels of beneficial bacteria like Akkermansia. This is a bacteria that regulates the gut lining. And also lower levels of Faecalibacterium, which produces butyrate, another short chain fatty acid that's really important for gut health, helps to reduce inflammation, helps to strengthen the gut lining. So this might be also why we see in chronic alcohol users, they have leaky gut, because they don't have these bacteria that look after the gut lining.
I think what people need to understand as well is that nowadays chronic alcohol consumption is 3 to 6 glasses of wine a week type thing, and that is the reality of it.
Hold.
Yeah. So like the World Health Organization in many countries have now come out saying that the safe level of alcohol consumption is 0 units per week. So like you simply shouldn't be drinking alcohol. That of course is unrealistic, and I am pro moderation. I'm pro having a good relationship with alcohol. I think if people want to blow off some steam and enjoy a couple of drinks here and there, that no problem, and I do that myself. So it's no big deal. Not coming here to preach against alcohol, but the reality of the situation is there is no safe level of alcohol consumption, and chronic drinking is far less than you might assume that it would be. It's you at the end of the day, and again, I'm not here just to bash alcohol because it's a pretty boring conversation, and I've certainly had my fair share of booze. But at the end of the day, alcohol is kind of ethanol, and the idea in society that it's so normalized that you can just go to the pub, sit with your friends, and consume in many cases vast quantities of ethanol, which impedes your physical ability to move, talk, your speech becomes slurred, you become tired, you lose your motor function, and then eventually get shut down by the level of alcohol that you're drinking. When you feel drunk, that's not a nice feeling, right? So the path to getting drunk can feel great, can feel fun, can be amusing, entertaining. Being drunk is horrendous. Not a single person will argue that being drunk is fun. Waking up hungover, every single person that wakes up hungover, nobody wishes they drank more the night before. In fact, those words have never ever been said. Nobody's ever woken up and gone, I wish I had
3 more tequila.
I wish I had more shots last night. Never been said. And it's just your body shutting you down is its way of protecting itself. So literally, when you are drunk and you're slow and you're slurring and you start to kind of, potentially knock stuff over, or even in extreme cases fall down, or, you're losing your ability to function, that is literally your brain and your body trying to make you stop consuming the thing that you're consuming. More. It's saying, stop doing it. Like, I can't operate properly. That's your brain saying, please stop putting this in me. And that's why you pass out or black out or lose your memory. And it's all, again, without sounding like a grandparent, it's pretty dangerous stuff.
I think that's the thing that we've normalized, and this is what I find hilarious about. Like, I think we're getting there with like smoking now. Like before, remember when everyone used to smoke in clubs, and we'd always think it was fine. And planes, we'd all be like, oh yeah, they're just sparking up a fag on a plane. You'd be like, oh yeah, that's fine. Now smoking, if you see it on the street, you're like, oh, they're like meters away from you, and you're like, oh my god, they're smoking, get away from me. But alcohol, like, now people are so obsessive, like ultra processed foods, I won't eat that because it's got a grain of something in it. But then having 40 litres of vodka at the weekend, and it's like, why culturally
40 litres? Yeah,
Listen, Magaluf 2005.
In passing, 40 litres is going to do some damage. That is a bathtub full of vodka.
No, but we always talk about this before we went to Magaluf 2005. We did the cabbage soup diet. Don't know if you remember that one. Basically, we used to have cabbage soup for 2 weeks, and then we went to Magaluf and drank solidly for 2 weeks. But I'm sure I came back aged 19 or whatever I was and was absolutely fine. Like, our bodies just, and now 2 glasses of red and I'm in bits hungover. And I think it's like the gut brain axis thing that you were kind of alluded to there. Why is it that the next day, why is it that alcohol makes us feel so great and gives us all those like good feelings, and then the next morning it's like crashing down, full anxiety, regretting every decision we've ever made?
We always say, if you could bottle that feeling of 2 drinks and sell it, be a millionaire. But it's never just 2 drinks, right? And alcohol crosses the blood-brain barrier.
What's this, by the way?
Whiskey.
Clean whiskey. Sorry, it's just I was just attempting to bottle that feeling.
Right.
No, sorry. So you got. Sorry for interrupting you. I couldn't quite believe my eyes when I saw this incredible product just down here.
But yeah, the hangover is a combination of different sort of physical and physiological things. So you get the dehydration, obviously, from the alcohol, because it's a diuretic. It blocks vasopressin, which is a hormone that regulates water balance. So,
that's why you need to wee loads after you've had a drink.
And then you're losing electrolytes through that. It's a toxin, obviously, from the acetaldehyde, which causes some of the nausea, the gastrointestinal side effects. And you obviously get a lack of sleep as well, because you just don't sleep well after drinking. And alcohol causes inflammatory processes in the body. So the toxin itself and some of the metabolites of that, you get these reactive oxygen species from the metabolism of alcohol, which signal the release of cytokines from your immune system. These are like inflammatory signaling molecules. And then it's whether that actually some of the effects on the gut microbiome themselves are why we get some of those, gastrointestinal side effects from the alcohol.
It doesn't sound great. It would put you off, wouldn't it, hearing all that?
The other what you were referring to, the fun, is all dopamine related. So kind of, anything that brings
pleasure.
Pleasure is dopamine related. So, porn, drugs, cigarettes, alcohol,
likes on Instagram,
scrolling, it's all it's a dopamine release in varying levels, obviously, depending on, cocaine would be far higher than, say, having a cigarette, but it varies. And actually, if if you like reading, you should read a book called Dopamine Nation by Dr. Anna Lembke, who really effectively describes the kind of pleasure-pain balance in your mind. And she basically says, for whatever you give yourself in dopamine, you're going to have to pay for with pain. And it's kind of like, she pictures your mind as a seesaw and essentially says, if you go to the pub and you're drinking, you're loading up on that dopamine, and so it's tipping your mind into the pleasure spectrum. And when it comes back down, which it invariably will, when you stop drinking, you'll have to pay for it by dipping into pain. So you'll then have to spend time feeling anxious, depressed, hungover, whatever that might be, and you essentially you pay a debt for the amount. And so the more you drink, the more pain you're going to feel. If you just dip into a little bit of dopamine, then you're kind of fine. She argues that if you drink to excess, to the point where you are drunk, it might take your body around 30 days to level out, which is, I think, more than most people might think, because the majority of people, certainly in this country, drink on a semi-regular basis. And you get a lot of people that think, oh, well, I only drink on a Friday and a Saturday, so I'm sober all week. But I'll have my 10 drinks or 15 drinks at the weekend. And Dr. Andrew Huberman, who I'm sure you're very familiar with, I'm sure you're probably both familiar with him, will argue that is exactly the same as having kind of 2 drinks a day, because similar to what Anna Lemke is saying, you never actually give yourself the chance of being level and sober. So if you drink once a week, they would argue that you're actually never sober. That your body is always dealing with a toxin. And again, sorry, this is not meant to be incredibly alarming, or I'm certainly not being judgmental. As I said, I drink alcohol very occasionally, but it is an interesting thought, because even when you think you're behaving, from a neurological perspective, you're not.
Yeah, well, I guess it's and it's like the same with the gut microbiome, isn't it? Like, to get that balance and equilibrium again takes time. Like, you're not going to not drink for a couple of days, or not drink Monday to Friday and then drink and expect your microbes to be like, yay, everything's fine now. Yeah,
so they've shown in chronic alcohol users, when they stop, the microbiome does recover, but it takes around 2 to 3 weeks. And then
Spencer's is tip top now.
Mine's been
tip top.
The last time I drank alcohol was 8 weeks ago, yesterday, and I know that because I'm just giving myself a 3-month break. So I am counting the weeks at the moment, and I haven't drank in 8 weeks, and it is truly remarkable, the kind of difference I feel, and some people are different. I've got some friends that probably didn't abuse alcohol as much as me, who go sober for a period and they're like, I'm not sure what the fuss is about, because it wasn't a huge problem for them. But for me, my mind is a completely different thing. I will debate or argue a point completely differently. I'll look at my business completely differently. I'll adopt a different way of being and thinking when I haven't had any alcohol for a while. It's very noticeable to some people that know me very well. Yeah. And it's very clear to people as well, and to myself. I almost feel, and this is very unscientific, but
we like a woo-woo on this podcast as well. We like woo-woo too.
I almost feel, and this is just personal to me again, that the universe almost rewards me when I don't drink, because I think there's so much negativity and so many bad memories that I can associate to alcohol consumption, that when I abstain completely, I genuinely feel like a guiding hand on my shoulder. Like just something. I find myself to be a luckier person. Things go my way more. My relationships are easier. There's no confrontation of any kind, and that probably points to me being the problem, which is also fine. But it's kind of it's extraordinarily noticeable to me. It's not just a question of, oh yeah, I feel good and my gut health is better, or I have a clearer mind. It's life is a different experience for me, even if I'm drinking moderately.
Well, I guess spiritually, if we're going there, shame is such a huge part of that. And as soon as you take that shame bit out and you feel like you don't have that because you're doing a certain thing or not, that can completely transform how you feel about yourself, which then transforms what else happens around you.
The opposite of shame, in my opinion, would be pride, right? So the feeling proud of yourself, and I'd be really hesitant to use that lightly. I'm even I don't mean to sound unkind, but even with my kids, like, I don't tell them I'm proud of them all of the time for nothing. It has to,
Be
not
earned.
not that they should want to earn it from me. That's not what I'm saying. But if you take me as an example with myself and turning feelings of kind of self-loathing or hatred into pride, and actually, achieving something that you set out to achieve, and you genuinely feel that feeling of like, I actually can't believe that I've done that.
Like running bloody marathons every day.
Like that. Well, a good example is the finish line of the 30 marathons in 30 days last year, right? So, like,
honestly, when I saw you were doing that, I was like, and you looked like, it looked pretty effortless.
Well,
like
I was well prepared for it.
Yeah,
that's the difference, right?
Yeah,
So
and
it's
that's
kind
the
of
thing. Like,
I paid for it before doing it. I put in
your
the pain.
penance had happened before you started.
Yeah, I put myself through countless hours of hell to condition my body to be able to handle that. Because it was so important that I succeeded in my eyes. So, but it's, that taking a few years ago where literally I would wake up still feeling drunk and have, a whiskey privately in the morning and feel a deep sense of shame because I knew that what I was doing was wrong. And then you kind of, you take that and you bottle that up, and then I successfully did the thing in Jordan and crossed that finish line. Well, honestly, when I got to the hotel, Briley was there actually. When I got to the hotel, there was this incredible sense of achievement, firstly, but the pride was something that I've not experienced before, right?
Yeah, and overshadows, like, has a nice white light on all the shame that you've had.
Even just the relationship with my parents were just in like, they couldn't believe it, and there was this incredible feeling of like, wow, when you focus on something and when you really dial into it, what can you achieve? And it's how Untapped was born. So in those moments, I decided to leave all of my podcasts and build Untapped, which is all about human potential and pushing yourself and trying to figure out exactly what you can achieve with your life if you really care about something. And it made me focus more on CleanCo as well. Just that journey of helping people make better decisions, because that all began with me putting down alcohol and focusing that addictive energy into positive things.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I think balance is, some people are really balanced. Like, some people are maniacs and can put half a bag of crisps back in their bag, right? These people, I'm like,
but that's harder than the marathons, by the way.
Are you? I'm like, who are you? You're me. Like, some people are just balanced.
Yeah.
But I think you're like me. You live life in the extremes.
Yeah.
And I think that's really difficult when it comes to health and well-being, because either you're in the super extreme bucket or you're not.
It's so funny you say that. I was with someone yesterday who it was Father's Day yesterday. So we were...
Happy Father's Day.
Thank you. We were with a big group of fathers. There were 6 fathers there, loads of kids running around. And some of them, in fact, all of them yesterday were drinking alcohol. I wasn't at this particular time. And they all just had like a couple of drinks, no problem. Beautiful weather, pool, kids are out and about running around. Everyone had maybe a couple of drinks. That's it. And the wine went away, and I was like, oh, God, if I was drinking, I'd have a couple. Today here, I'd have a couple of bottles, at the very least, because it's just an awesome, beautiful. Like, so I would struggle. Of course, if I made it my mission to just have 2 glasses, I could probably also do that. Yeah. But it would feel like a kind of, why am I bothering with the 2 drinks? When actually my natural inclination would be to have more, and it's probably easier to just not have any. Yeah. But yeah, that, I imagine most people are probably balanced.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, like, the shift is so, like, when you do something, you do it with all of your gusto, whether it's anything, and that shift is going to be huge. Like, some people work a 9 to 5, I'm envious of that, like working 9 to 5, happy with that, live a really balanced life, and they live life within this, equilibrium that's nice. And the big swings mean you're super successful, but it also swings the other way. And that's tough. And that's tough when it comes to health, because we're making all these small decisions that have a huge impact. And that's the thing with gut health, isn't it? Is like, it's so changeable so quickly.
Yeah. So anything that you introduce daily into your diet or lifestyle will probably have a significant change on your gut microbiome. And it's funny because when we look at things like red wine, so red wine...
Give me some good news.
Yeah, well, if you follow me, I did the Mediterranean diet last year, and I religiously stuck to 1 glass of red wine a day, like the recommendation. And
did you want to, George? Did you want to?
I actually enjoyed it. I didn't feel the need to have another glass afterwards. It kind of curbed that sweet tooth craving after tea as well. Like, I didn't think I needed a snack. The red wine lulled that. But when we look at the research as well, it's really interesting, because there's been studies where they actually give people a glass of red wine every day for 3 weeks. So they gave them a large glass of red, or one had alcohol and one had was non-alcoholic, and they showed that actually both of them increased levels of good bacteria in the gut, so bifidobacteria, and it also reduced levels of inflammation, so CRP, which is an inflammatory protein, and also reduced blood pressure and cholesterol. So the benefits were not from the alcohol, because obviously both the alcoholic and non-alcoholic wine led to the improvements. It's probably from the polyphenols in the red wine. So polyphenols are like antioxidants, and they're found in red grapes and the skin. So red wine is made from grapes and the skin. Yeah. And then the other thing is, when you look at meta-analysis, so this is where the scientists look at all of the studies and pile them together to see what it says. It actually shows a correlation between red wine drinkers and reduced risk of cardiovascular disease and death from cardiovascular disease. But you don't get that with other types of alcohol. In fact, you get the opposite. You get an increased risk. So that's pretty interesting. But as Spencer was saying before, some of the recent data is saying, actually, is any amount of alcohol beneficial? Probably not. There might actually be a slightly increased risk in terms of things like cancers related to the gut. But the problem, again, with these studies is they're based on recall. So you're asking people to tell you how much they drink. I'm not sure about you, but I think most of us...
tells the truth. When the doctor asks you how many units you have a week, you're like... how much is a unit again?
we definitely underestimate how much we drink.
100%.
Yeah. So researchers in Spain tried to address this. They got people and they measured a metabolite of wine in their urine. So a metabolite that gut bacteria produce when...
No lying there.
Yeah.
Hey.
So not
units.
Oh, literally pee test.
And what they found was lower levels of inflammation and markers of cardiovascular disease in people who drank around 10 to 20 grams of alcohol from red wine a day, which is about the equivalent of a glass.
Nothing.
No, it's a glass of a medium glass of red. Yeah,
that's all right, isn't it?
Yeah, that's all right.
You okay?
Nothing. A medium glass tiny.
So yeah, these polyphenols in red wine seem to be good for gut health, but I understand that not everyone wants to drink alcohol. So what you can do is get these polyphenols from alcohol-free red wine, or you could use grape juice, or another juice that I like is pomegranate juice. That's super high in
juice. Are you a fan of beetroot juice?
I like a bit of beetroot,
Beetroot juice.
Yeah, so just advocating for a drink that's high in polyphenols. And also, if you have it with your meal as well, they've shown in studies that it reduces the blood sugar spike of that meal than if you were to have it without the wine.
So the positives are the polyphenols then. So it's probably best to get them from a non-alcoholic source.
Yeah. Because that's the thing, like, there's all the press headlines, like, 1 glass of red helps you live longer, blah, 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 and you're like...
Depends who's paying for the research as well, by the way.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I think, like I'm not saying that to be a dick, but it's kind of, if it's going to benefit a big alcohol company.
For the research?
Well, exactly. No, but like, honestly, so when you read ultra-processed people, which you were talking about UPFs earlier, ultra-processed foods, and... You quickly realise, Dr. Chris Van Tilliken, who wrote the book, quickly realised that like the majority of the information that you're reading that's promoting the brands is paid for by the brands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like obviously, any brand can pay for, data to favour their purpose or mission. It's not particularly complicated to do that.
Well, I think that's why nutrition in general is so difficult to navigate, because we have all this messaging that is usually binary, so things are good or bad, when actually everyone's on such a personal journey that it's what is good for us. And I think that moderation is not sexy or cool to talk about, because it's basically like
unless we're talking about it.
Unless we're talking about it. Well, you and your shorts maybe, not me in my funeral garbs. But we are where we are.
I'll tell you what, I couldn't believe it, right? So when I read that book, it was, when you read something and you're just blissfully unaware of it prior to receiving the information, and then you kind of look into it a bit, and you're just completely shocked by what you see. He was saying in the book, if you're the kind of person that works 9 to 5 or whatever, and you pick up a sandwich from your local shop and you think you're being healthy because you're eating a chicken wrap with, chicken and lettuce wrap, and you think, oh, that's fine because it's just a wrap. And, you know, the chicken's chicken, obviously, and then it's just lettuce. He's like, flip it over and have a quick read of the ingredients. And you'll probably find that there's like 60 ingredients on the back. And I was like, nah. I was like, there's no way. And I would podcast in Global at the time. And I would have a chicken wrap, like loads. And I would pick it because I felt that it was the healthiest of all the options there. And it's a quick, on-the-go thing. And I picked it up and I flipped it over. And it was just like... There's about 60 ingredients on the back, things you've never heard of, just these long, crazy scientific words you've never heard of, you know, xanthan gum and all kinds of stuff in there. And it later turns out that xanthan gum is a thickening agent, but it's also, you know, when bacteria builds up in your washing machine or your dishwasher, and you get that kind of like thick stuff sometimes in the goo. That is xanthan gum, essentially. And it's just this like crap that your body doesn't even know what it is, right? And your wrap is full of it. It's just like, whereas if you were to, I know it's more expensive, I know it's not accessible to everyone, but you know, if you were to make the same thing out of fresh bread that's been baked somewhere, you know, from the bakery next door, and you were to put, you know, chicken that's a single ingredient thing that you roast yourself into it, and with fresh mayonnaise, then it's a completely different meal. It looks and kind of feels the same, but it's not the same. Yeah. And it's kind of same amount of calories, same amount of everything else, but it's just one is good for you and one is not, basically. Well, and it's unbelievable because it's difficult to know what you should be eating. And
I think it's the same, like that information is not readily available to all of us. So like where I'm from in Scotland, there's no way that we would have been reading the back of packs. But equally, like we wouldn't have, culturally it's so crisps. Embedded that crisp, oh my god, crisps. love a crisp. My son now loves crisps as well. I'm like, oh dear. Culturally that's been embedded that, you know, like fast food is kind of normal and fine for our health, and same with alcohol, like fine and good for our health. But I think that what people really want, Jordan, what people always, because I have to always think it's so cool, Jordan does tests on himself, so he'll eat something and then test himself, and I'm like, imagine
how do you do that, Jordan?
Well, when I did the Mediterranean diet, I did some blood tests, a stool test as well to look at my gut microbiome. And I was pretty shocked to be a so-called gut health expert.
Yeah, Mr. Gut Health, no less.
My microbiome wasn't very diverse. So diversity means just more different types of microbes, bacteria in your gut. And if you have more diversity, it's linked to better overall health, better gut health. So my diversity wasn't great, although I did it in January just after Christmas, so I was probably
big swings.
Yeah. And my cholesterol was pretty high, and my blood pressure.
Is that the stress from working long hours?
Yeah. Well, it was Christmas. I just had a break, so probably not. But then I did the diet for 4 weeks, retested, and I saw my blood pressure came down, my cholesterol kept normalised, and I saw an improvement in my gut microbiome as well from an increase in bacteria that produce butyrates. We've discussed that. It's that short chain fatty acid that's really important for gut health. And that was just within the space of 4 weeks, right? And also I was drinking a glass of red wine a day whilst doing it. So you can change and improve your health in quite a short space of time.
That's what I was going to say. If somebody was thinking, can I have a break? Like when what's long enough? Because you said sort of 30 days. But in terms of your gut microbiome, what is a good stretch of time to maybe lay off the alcohol or give up alcohol for a bit to have I don't like to use words like detox and reset because it's kind of bullshit, but like what is a good time?
I know we all advocate for dry January, and I think probably a month is a good amount of time. It's just whether after that month you go straight back to binging, for example, or whether you're a bit more responsible with it. And then when we look at things like leaky gut, so alcohol seems to cause a leaky gut, and for those who don't know what leaky gut is, basically your cells in your gut lining are really closely packed together. They're joined by these proteins called tight junction proteins. They're like stitches. When these stitches become undone or damaged, then the space between the cells increases and things from within your gut can escape into your body, like food particles, toxins from bacteria and bacteria themselves. So what we know is that alcohol can cause this, but we don't know what the cutoff of alcohol, so how many drinks it would take to make your gut leaky.
Should push it to its limit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There was a study where they looked at a single binge drinking episode, so that's 4 to 5 drinks in about 2 hours, and they showed that did cause a leaky gut, but it recovered within about 24 hours afterwards, so it was temporary. And I should also state that there's other healthy things that cause a temporarily leaky gut,
like such as
high intensity exercise. So if you do high rocks, endurance.
Stop the running, Spen. Stop the running.
Endurance.
Listen, somebody break out a bottle of vodka.
Take to walking. No more marathons, my friend.
You're about to give yourself a leaky gut after this.
Leaky gut sounds absolutely hideous.
Yeah,
doesn't
it's
it?
not.
But it sounds a lot worse than it is. What I'm trying to get across is it's a normal physiological response to acute stress, whether that's from binge drinking or intense exercise.
What does it feel like? Do you know?
You don't really feel symptoms of a temporarily leaky gut. It's when you have a chronic leaky gut that you get symptoms, and the symptoms are akin to a hangover. So brain fog, people get skin issues, GI issues.
But it was the same as a hangover, like leaky gut symptoms.
Have you got leaky gut?
I don't bloody know. Shall we can test this now,
Well,
George?
we can test for you because we've just launched like the most accurate way of doing that. So most people will do a stool test or a blood test, but these aren't accurate. You need to directly assess how leaky the gut lining is.
Right, next time, part 2.
Right,
I'll come back in. Don't worry.
Part 2.
It's actually a urine test. So we give you some sugars, and then if your gut is leaky, those sugars will escape and be peed out. So we're going to measure them. And we just published a study. So the Functional Gut Clinic looked at leaky gut in people with IBSD, so that's diarrhea predominant irritable bowel syndrome, and we showed that a supplement made from hemp fibre actually reduced leaky gut. So it'd be interesting to know if taking something like that could mitigate the leaky gut that's caused by drinking.
I was going to say, can things like probiotics, like if we are going to have excessive alcohol or we think we've got leaky gut, can we take probiotics, or are there other things can help if we're going to have a fun Friday?
So the research so far is only in mice, those poor buggers.
Those bloody mice.
Researchers
They're
get
having
them.
a great time though. They get a probiotic, free probiotics, they get drunk.
So researchers get them drunk and then they give them probiotics, and there's actually some evidence to show that it might actually help. So some species like LGG helps to prevent a leaky gut. Some spore-based probiotics seem to actually produce the enzymes that break down alcohol. So then they're turning that toxic acetaldehyde into not toxic acetate. So potentially, but again, these studies have only been done in mice. So
I read something really interesting quite recently actually about it was rats actually, I believe, in this particular example, but it was they were testing drugs, not alcohol, on kind of the environment in which you take drugs instead of the addictive quality of the drug. So they would give rats, I believe, it's the second time I've mentioned cocaine, but I think this was done with cocaine. So there was a cocaine water and just a plain water in a cage with a kind of singular rat that had no other way of entertaining itself. And it would habitually take the cocaine water until it died. So just like it would... And the early thought process was that that's because it's addictive and you want it and you'll keep going and going and going even though it's harmful. That kind of way of imagining addiction, right?
Yeah.
That you can't stop and you're powerless over it, and you know if it's there you're going to do it. And then they later did a test where they surrounded the rat with other rats. Pals, and also a lot of other distractions, so rat wheels and like an amusement park for the rat essentially, and then put cocaine water, and none of the rats touched the cocaine. So it was literally, if there was an interesting thing to be doing, or you know, socializing with other rats, or having, you know, different hobbies or anything else, basically, it would and so the kind of, there was a thought process that loneliness and being cut off from your friends and the world results in higher kind of drug use for people who have problems with drugs, tested on rats. But it kind of makes sense, you know, like I think if you've ever gone through turbulent drinking like I did, so you know, I'm not sure of whether or not the test would work with alcohol as well. This was, you know, rats with drugs. But if you try and apply the same logic to drinking for humans, which of course is a stretch, it kind of made a lot of sense to me. Like my worst times drinking were when I felt, you know, quite alienated, a bit lonely. Yeah. You know, I was on television from time to time, but then there'd be long breaks where other people would be working, all my friends were at work and I wasn't. So you'd be kind of lonely and at home, and you'd feel this sense of failure almost because you're just not excited or impressed with yourself or what you're doing or where you're going, so you drink more, and it would spin, into turbulent drinking regularly, because it felt like almost that's what there is to do, and it becomes a vicious cycle, like for the rats.
But as well, like it's just so key that behaviour is such a huge part. Like a lot of people, even when it comes to gut health, know what they should be doing, know what they should be eating, but changing your behaviour is the biggest thing. I think that's why, to touch upon Clean Co is like not like having that moment where you are about to have a drink, or you can be with your friends and still feel like you're having a drink, is so important. Like I'm assuming that's why you created it. Because
if I may say, the it is exactly why that was created. So changing your behaviour as a human being is really difficult. It requires a kind of emotional intelligence and almost a maturity to understand that the things that you're used to aren't good for you, which kind of comes with age, but also it's quite difficult for some people. If you're the type of person that smokes 2, 3, 4, 5 cigarettes a day, suddenly cutting that off, it's not necessarily because you're addicted to the nicotine. When people stop smoking, they don't necessarily go and chew nicotine gum.
Yeah.
They're able to stop without taking any nicotine. So the thought that you're addicted to nicotine is, of course, a very common thought, but it's not necessarily,
quite basic,
you have control over your nicotine consumption ordinarily. I could argue the same for alcohol, but this, and the point of Clean Co, is so that you can enjoy that experience in exactly the same way. So, the reason the company was created was, say, for example, I would love a gin and tonic. I can take the Clean Gin, Clean G we call it now. Got a big slap on the wrist from the gin boys.
It's not an actual gin.
No, it's not gin. It's not gin, but it smells like gin. It tastes like gin. It kind of feels like gin, and it looks a bit like gin. So
have you had the dirty martini with that gin?
We don't. Martini? Well, that would be essentially similar to drinking it neat, which currently in the market we wouldn't necessarily advise. You can of course drink it however you like if you buy a bottle of Clean G. You may be a little bit disappointed at this stage in the global market for this style of product if you're drinking a gin martini, because obviously it's
not going to give you the
that is ethanol. You're drinking a glass of ethanol, and obviously there's no ethanol in our product, so it's difficult to kind of make them taste the same. However, if you're mixing it with a tonic, so say you're making a gin and tonic, you have that experience of cracking open the bottle exactly the same way as you might crack open a gin bottle. It smells the same, it feels the same, you pour it in exactly the same way, you make it in exactly the same way, and it tastes and feels the same. Similar to kind of how my non-alcoholic beer tasted yesterday.
Yeah.
Like I had a non-alcoholic beer. I felt a sense of relief. I felt a sense of, this is that, delicious drink that I'm lusting for. I probably even got
refreshing.
a dopamine release from it because your mind is telling you that you're having something that ordinarily you'd associate with relaxing and having a nice time in the sun. So your body kind of, does all the same stuff really as it would if you were drinking alcohol. And this is what this brand's all about. It's kind of a, I was contemplating calling it placebo to begin with, because it's that feeling of drinking when you're not drinking. It's
not as snappy as Clean Co, though, is it?
I like Clean. We used to be called the Clean Liquor Company.
Too much to say. Mouthful.
As fate would have it, there was another company called the Clean Alcohol Company, and they took issue with us. So we
nothing like a little lawsuit on your desk.
Wow, they're no longer in business.
Yeah,
so
fuck them. Maybe you should change it back.
We could do now.
Just to stick the knife in.
Yeah, see you later, mate.
Yeah.
Just to chip in there, going back to sort of that desire to drink. There was actually a study in 18 to 25-year-old binge drinkers, and they found that they had certain gut bacteria that were linked to cravings. So it might actually be your gut microbiome telling your brain to have a drink.
Yeah, because the hormone, is it ghrelin, like your hunger hormone, would that have the same effect of making you want to drink alcohol?
So it's some sort of neurotransmitter, right? Because our gut microbiome produce these brain messenger signals that travel up to the brain through the vagus nerve. So it might be something to do with that.
Cravings generally are interesting though, aren't they? Like last night, I had a huge meal yesterday, we had this delicious barbecued lamb, and I simply couldn't stop eating, right? Like I literally ate an enormous...
The lamb.
Oh, I was I so nearly fell asleep on the motorway on the way home. I was driving, so I didn't, but kids in the car and that. But literally I was absolutely stuffed. like stuffed to the point where it was painful.
Yeah.
And then like I got home and I just had to have chocolate.
Sweet to like feel it off.
Oh my God. I was lying in bed really early last night and I was watching Your Friends and Neighbours, that John Hamm show.
Hot John Hamm.
It's actually pretty good.
Hot John Hamm.
He's high end, isn't he?
Ridiculous.
I love John Hamm.
Ridiculous.
So we're watching.
And now his little small petty criminal ways is even hotter.
Yeah, I know.
Hot John
Like,
Hamm.
oh,
I
yeah,
know.
just
He's great.
bursting into those houses and nicking
yeah.
shit. It is.
With
It's
his
sexy.
baseball cap on as well. It's
Ridiculous. Sexy, and I'm not even gay.
Yeah, honestly, he's
I'm
wonderful.
into it. I'm into it.
I always say to my husband, "Can we watch Hot John Hamm?"
Yeah.
And he's like,
Hot John. It sounds
John
good as
Hamm,
well.
yeah,
Hot John Hamm. Hot
What a
John
guy.
Hamm. It sounds like some kind of sandwich.
I know. Yeah. It should be a sandwich.
It should be. So I was watching that. I was lying in bed, and I literally, despite being full, I had to. There was no controlling it. Had to have chocolate.
Did you get up from bed?
Yeah. I always get up from bed. To be fair, like it's not unusual for me to eat in the middle of the night. Like
Really?
I'll just like go and have a sandwich or something. Not always,
Yeah,
but like I do love it.
Midnight snack.
I love a midnight snack. Delicious. Or a whole thing of grapes or something. Grapes into little. Oh, there's
Good. Oh yeah, polyphenols.
There we go, polyphenols. See, I'm just doing it anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't even need to.
Yeah,
know.
exactly. Just in the middle at 12 p.m. Just getting the polyphenols in.
Just smashing those polyphenols, you know.
Is that your gut bugs telling you that you should have
My gut
chocolate?
bugs and I have an awesome relationship. They
That's-
always tell me when to have
Yeah,
grapes. To be honest.
It very well could be, yeah.
Really, yeah. Do you have any like myths or nonsense that you've read or heard about alcohol or anything?
Did
to
you
do
say
with gut
nonsense?
health? Yeah,
I love that
nonsense,
word.
literally nonsense.
I love that word. I say it to my kids all the time. Nonsense.
Nonsense. It's like when people say mean. I think that's so cute. Or I'm cross with you.
Yeah,
Like,
cross.
I am so cross.
I am cross. Yeah, it's better than
I would
disappointed.
never say it as a
Disappointed
parent,
is
but
a bit.
cross is it's just the right level of anger with a child. Like,
Disappointed is a real spiky comment. I
yeah,
think.
but
That's like
I'm pretty cross with you.
Oh yeah,
Like,
cross.
that's cute.
I think it's all right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I could never be cross with Gigi though. But anyway.
No, yeah,
Yeah,
the apple of
she
your
can
eye.
do whatever she likes.
Do you have any? Have you heard any like myths or bullshit out in the world that you're like that you've got Jordan here? What are you going to come out with?
Sophie's that visual.
Yeah,
Oh god.
Oh god.
No, of course I hear bullshit all the time, and it really revs me up.
Yeah.
But I don't know what to kind of say on this
On
show.
that,
Alcohol related myths or bullshit. I can only speak from personal experience. So I'm not a scientist, nor so I know that a clean alcohol free life is a better life for me. Yeah, absolutely. So. All of this, that moderation is entirely possible for everyone, I think is fair. What am I saying? I read a book recently it's actually quite a controversial book, and it would annoy a lot of people. It's called Addiction is a Choice.
Okay.
And it's basically saying the kind of alcoholism and drug addiction doesn't really exist.
Okay.
And Sophie's scratching her neck and stuff. Listen, I'll explain it. I'll explain it just quickly, because actually I think it's really thought provoking, and I think people should be able to talk about this
both
stuff.
sides of the fence.
Well, you should have opinions on stuff, and if your opinion differs to somebody else's, then so be it. You shouldn't have to. Nothing needs to be this confrontational, right? And I just found the book really interesting because it suggested that when you're sober or alcohol free, so say like I am now, or we are now, we're all, none of us, I don't think, are intoxicated at this time of day, right? So the decision to have that first drink is your decision, right? Because I think it's fair to argue that when you've had 3-4 drinks, then you may have 10, 15 drinks, you're like, you're in it then. So this book would suggest that, that desire to have the first drink isn't necessarily a disease, right? That like if you call yourself an alcoholic or you have alcohol dependency, that genuinely speaking, that first drink is a decision. And if you are the kind of person where if you have one drink, you're gonna have 10 drinks, aka an alcoholic in inverted commas, then don't have that first drink. And it's easier said than done.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that people would be good at managing this system, but broadly speaking, and from my experience, I can certainly decide if I'm going to have that first drink or not, right? So and I've had big problems with alcohol where I lose control of my drinking over long periods of time. But that decision to have the first drink is a decision that I make, and it might be a bad decision, but it is certainly my decision. And I think that's broadly speaking fair. I think most people can decide if they're going to have that first drink or not. And I was chatting to somebody else about it who's a psychotherapist, and they said that there exists this kind of system for some people because they don't believe that recovery. Sorry, this is a really long answer. They don't believe that addiction to alcohol is as simple as you know, if you're an alcoholic, then you can never drink again. They believe, the people I've spoken to, that of course you can have a good relationship, and anyone can have a good relationship with alcohol, according to this particular psychotherapist I was talking to, and he incorporates a tipping point. So he says, if you're the kind of person that if you have one beer, you're going to drink more and you're going to have more, then perhaps you shouldn't be drinking at all, right? But if you're the kind of person that can have 2 drinks and stop, then don't have the 3rd drink. That becomes your tipping point, right? And it's circumstantial, and it depends where you are, it depends who you're with. You know, it may be that going out with your 2 best pals in Soho means that you have a tipping point of 0. It may be if you're with your parents, you can have 4 drinks and not, you know, continue to, you know, so it varies, and it's about making that decision. And essentially, therefore, having that choice. I don't know how relevant that is to anything, but I
think it's true.
I thought it was really interesting for somebody like me who used to assume that, okay, I've got this really bad problem with drinking, and if I keep drinking, I could lose everything. I could lose my, you know, my loved ones, my kids, my business, you know. And for me to kind of understand it slightly differently, and you put yourself in circumstances and you go, actually, I really don't think it's that safe for me to have a drink here, so I'm just not going to do it. It gives you a level of control that I previously felt that I didn't have, and I really enjoyed the book.
Yeah, well, I think that the autonomy thing, and I think it's the same with gut health and everything, is like, that's why it's so personalised, that the advice that we give, and that you know this, that is so personalised to people, that you cannot, guidelines are so difficult, because what like abstinence is not right for some persons. You say like 1 to 2 drinks, not like for others. And it's the same, you know, some people could have lots of ultra processed foods, need no fibre, and have their gut microbiome would be great and fine. And I think that's going to be my next question to you, George. Is there one bit of advice from a scientist when it comes to alcohol that you could give anyone to say, only drink red wine, or switch out your G&Ts, or like, is there one bit of advice that people should do, or like a test that they can do, or
switch out your G&Ts for a clean G&T, mate. You'll never look back.
Big G.
It's like I said, in terms of gut health, polyphenols seem to be the answer, and if you want to get that from a glass of red wine, it seems like that's probably safe, but can you just stick to that 1 glass of red wine, or do you want to have 2, 3, 4? That's when you sort of got to outweigh the benefits with risk. So whether that be a juice, a green tea, coffee, you know, try and get, you know, have something like that with your dinner. But if you do have a bad relationship with alcohol, that's when you probably should think, you know, how can I reduce that?
Sorry, and by the way, I'm not necessarily using that book, or certainly the title, as my view. I'm just bringing it to the table as a discussion point. I just think that it's certainly interesting, and if that's offended anyone who knows somebody with alcohol dependency issues, or somebody who simply can't control their alcoholism, then I'm not meaning to offend. It's just another way of looking at it. I think, you know, it's contrary to the AA model, which has saved millions of lives and helped millions of people, and, you know, long live AA. It's for, I suppose the book is more written for people like me who went to AA and didn't necessarily feel that it was right for me.
But I think you're living proof that moderation is possible.
I think so, and I'm not saying that I have good control. Like if I go on holiday, for example, and we're not working and we're away, you know, the drinks can flow in a way that can remind me of old times. You know, I'm certainly not perfect, but I can then come home and completely turn the tap off, which I think is. Which I'm very thankful for, because I didn't ever feel like I had that before. Yeah.
Well, in short, I feel like everyone just needs to have grapes at midnight.
Yeah.
Grapes
are the real winner here.
Yeah. That's our takeaway. Grapes at midnight in the middle of the night.
Grapes are delicious, God, as well. When you get them the right temperature, it's just crunchy bundles of joy.
We should be selling bloody grapes, not clean cold.
Grapes are just...
We've missed a bloody trick.
When they're like a little frozen. At the back of the fridge.
Yeah. Oh, delicious.
Crikey.
Did this get you excited? Join our 100 Days to Hack Your Gut Health programme. The link is in the bio.
Come and find us over on Instagram too, @The Gut Stuff. Pretty simple.
Hit subscribe. Your gut will thank you for it.